Hey, okay, guys, welcome to Legend Podcast, episode number 2, featuring Damien Sage. Bring him on now.
Alrighty.
Alright, I wanted to bring you on and talk with you. From my understanding, you're the owner of Elite Sim Sports. What got you started with that? How'd you make a team and think to do that?
I started off on a team. I actually started off on a team called MBJ, and them guys, they were really good guys, and I finally got to the point where I was winning quite a bit of late model stuff and being very successful. So I started making my own setups, and then me and Clayton found each other when I was just making setups, and he told me one night, he was like, "Hey, let's run Marks," and I was like, "What's that?" And he says 358 modifieds, and I bought 358 modifieds like a day before, 2 days before I met Clayton, and he's like, "We'll run them." And when I come into your lobbies, I was thrown to the wolves, basically. I mean, these guys, they were some of the best, and me and Clayton were running it for about, I don't know, we run it 3 or 4 times, and I told him, I was like, "Clayton, I think I'm gonna start a team. My sets are doing good. We're competitive. We're in the top 5 about every time, and we started the team, and it's taken off."
Yeah, that's what I'd seen. I mean, when you first were coming in, you were doing pretty good with your setups of DSS, which stands for Damien Sage Setups, EST 2024, but you've been pretty good with that, man. I don't know. What's been your biggest learning curve for iRacing? What did you struggle with the most? Was it throttle control or holding your line, or what was it when you were first new to iRacing?
I come from racing, so obviously the throttle control and holding the line was already there, but it was for sure just knowing that you didn't have to be full throttle and knowing that you can't feel nothing through your hind end and feeling it through your feet, so you had to feel it through the steering wheel and just pay attention to the screen and watch, hey, I'm full throttle and I'm not moving, I'm spinning. That was probably the biggest learning curve of all that.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was definitely my thing, was just learning, to learn when your car starts breaking loose and when you got to start making a difference there, and learn when to rotate the car and when to counter steer everything, and just everything with that. But it's definitely a learning curve for newer people, that's for sure. You know, what's your biggest advice for new people, or just people that run Legend Racing or anything? What's your advice, biggest advice to give them to get better?
A lot of people underestimate setups, I think. You've had, a lot of it is driving, but at the end of the day, if you're a very good driver on a baseline setup, you're gonna finish, probably 10th in your lobbies. You've got, Mario and these guys, and just all these guys that are actually really good that you're Sean and them. If you're not running a set, you're behind. With that being said, you don't have to go pay for a setup. If you put time into it, if you're going out there and you know your setup is too tight, and you know it's going to be too tight, and you're not going to be able to turn for the first 20 laps, change it a little bit. Don't go out there with a set that you know is wrong. And if you can't fix it, go back to what you know does work, and try to build off that a little bit more. Because it does make a difference, I think. I think that is one thing that would make a big difference, is some of these guys that I know can drive were on a good set.
I can 100% agree with you on that. Like me, when I was first learning how to build setups and everything, if I even just had a setup that I'd made that was pretty good, then I would try to build off from that and just adjust it to other tracks and try to make that work as, one of the easiest things that you can do when you're first learning, rather than going and building a brand new setup for each track if you're just learning on the setups. But, speaking of that, is there anything that you still struggle with on iRacing, or with, building setups or anything like that, or do you pretty much got it locked down?
I don't know. There's always room for improvement. And these things are always changing. When iRacing does their updates, and you can take a set that's really good one season they update the game and you come back and you run the next race and you're just like, I know this thing's different. There's always room for improvement and changing, and I struggle a little bit on more of the side of when it's early. I can't qualify when it's hammered down. Just trying to just be wild behind the wheel. I'm more of a just trying to when it slicks off. That's when I'm in my prime, and I just got to get better of being a little bit more wild behind the wheel during qualifying and getting that little bit more of a time out of the track.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the bigger things, too, is in qualifying, it's so different from the race because you're really focused on nailing them 2 laps or 3 or however many laps you got when you join a race. You're not, during the feature, during hot laps, okay, you make a mistake, you can regroup and however many laps you got left to work on that and fix it. But you're in qualifying, you got 2 laps and you got to nail them perfect or, you're just not going to be turning a good lap time. So that's definitely a big thing. What do you think's, like, your best, like, advice on, keeping it smooth through qualifying? Do you got anything for newer people with that, or no?
I've got myself better at qualifying here recently is just not being so tight behind the wheel. Like you said perfectly, everybody focuses on that. They got them 2 laps, got to be perfect. Don't just drill that in your head and think if I screw up these, I'm in the back, because that's what's going to happen. You're going to be in the back, and I always do that. I beat myself up over it before we even qualify, and I struggle, and I'm like, man, why did I do that? And I just started calming down here recently, and I've qualified a lot better. I mean, in qualifying means the world in your races. If you're behind in qualifying, you can do it. I've done it only a couple of times, and I've seen a couple other people do it, but it's hard. It's very hard.
Definitely is, if and it's sometimes even the same way with real life racing. If you qualify or finish bad in a heat race and you're gonna start further in the pack in the feature, you're usually not gonna make it up too many cars. You're not gonna pass too many usually, because it seems just in dirt racing where you start is pretty much where you finish for the most part. I've learned. I'm not saying that there ain't people that can't do it, because a few nights ago, Luke Soyle, Ethan Hudson did the exact thing twice in a row. There came from the rear, and then Sean Smith had over a second race lead, and Ethan Hudson brought that down to just a 1,000th of a second race lead coming to the checkers. So it's doable. It's just you gotta have a good track for your setup and gotta know how to hit your lines. Printing your perfect every single lap, and that just comes with experience and putting a lot of time in. And that was my biggest thing, was just racing a lot against people. Because when you're out on track and test drives or anything like that, it's just not the same as when you're racing against people. You probably have realized that and know that, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and a lot of people overlook the reality of the sim too. Is it's very humbling. You can come into the race and be quick time in hot laps, and then have a couple fast guys load in a little bit slower, and the track's already slicked off, and you go into qualifying thinking I'm 2/10 faster, and then you're 15th in qualifying. And even in the features, I mean, stuff happens all the time. You get in wrecks, you get entangled up, hard racing, and you hit the wall and break your right front or something, and you're waiting for it to come back, and this sim's humbling, and it takes a lot of skill and a lot of time and patience on this sim.
It really does. Patience is a big thing, and just not getting overwhelmed. It's like I've known a lot of people. It's easy to get overwhelmed and discouraged if you're not doing great, and people just gotta realize you gotta sit there and keep going and just put time in and race a bunch of laps with people, and even with your friends, or throw up a private race with you and your buddies and get used to it that way. Like, I've helped a few new people that way as well, and it seems to help them a lot afterwards, I've noticed. I don't know what your opinion is with that, though.
I fully agree with that. There's been a couple of times a couple people has joined in and they're like, I'm very new, I'm sorry, and it's like, I get people want to come in and run, but it really helps having somebody to help them, to run with them and turn laps with them. For example, you had Brett Walsh, she's on my team, and Mason. Dude, both them guys come to me, and we know each other real life, and they live about an hour and a half, 2 hours away, and Mason, he's a professional I would call him a professional four wheeler racer. He's a champion. He just actually won last week, and he won the championship. He's a national champion on a four wheeler, and this kid hops on the sim, and he was struggling, and he come and run probably, I don't know, 2 weeks with me, and he hopped in your race, and he finished third that one time, and he lit up, and I knew since then, that's what it takes is people to run with these people that are not as good, that's not learned as much. You run with them, and it makes them better.
Not just that, especially when you can finish in even top 5, it's a big confidence booster to get get you motivated to just really get used to it. But, then again, you can get overwhelmed with excitement and then end up messing up and different things. So it's just keeping yourself calm and stuff. And I've learned that is, when I was first on iRacing, racing any race, like doing really well, and then get too excited and then you end up smacking the wall or something. But just keep yourself calm and you'll be fine.
Yeah, for sure.
But what made you really get into iRacing? What brought your attention to it to make you get it?
Well, at first, when I first got iRacing, this was not my first account. I played on an account underneath my mom's name for about a year, and that was back in probably 2018, 2019, and that's back when my stepdad, he was running late models, full tour and stuff, traveling, and I come home one day and my brother got a PC off of some random website, and it was good enough. He wanted to play Rust on it, and it wasn't good enough to do that, but it was good enough to run iRacing on very, very low graphics. And I bought a Logitech G29 wheel. Actually, no, mine. I got that for my birthday or Christmas. I can't remember which one. And I told my mom, I said, I'm going to go download iRacing. And I come in here and I played the fire out of it. I wore the leather off the G29 wheel. And that's what really got me hooked up into it. And then I took about a 2-year and a half, 2-year break. And that's when I made this account. And I spent a good amount of money on, wheels, pedals, and a cockpit and a PC and just monitors and all that stuff that you have to be more realistic, and it helps me out where it's so close to being realistic. But I think that Logitech G29 is probably what got me into it, because I started off on a desk with a rolly chair. When I hit the gas, I'd roll backwards.
Kind of similar thing for me. I started out on my gaming laptop. I had a computer at the time, but it wasn't good enough to run iRacing. My laptop somehow managed to be able to be good enough to, and my other computer wasn't. But then I got a different one, put some money into it, and then started streaming iRacing, and then got into broadcasting not too long after being in iRacing. Now I've had it for 2 years, and that's always been my big thing, is to try to help newer people and help them learn and get them better and get more experience and, just get used to everything. And running with everybody that's another thing too. You'll have more wrecks too when you're running with people that you're not used to running with. And so, if you're new and coming into my shows and you guys ain't used to running with each other, then it's easy to get together if you don't know where everybody's gonna run at.
Yeah, and adding to that, it just, like you said, running with people you don't know. I know for a fact that we put on a show a couple of times when I would catch Clayton and he'd be winning the race. Being teammates, you can lean on each other, and there's no hurt feelings there. And you load in, and we've raced with Jarrett and Daniel and all these guys that how everybody races, and for the most part, nobody really wants to be touched. But that's very understandable. But some of these guys, they'll get down with you. I mean, they're, it's clean for the most part. I mean, like you said, accidents do happen, but it's not knowing who you're running against is sometimes scary, because you're wondering, man, if I bump him a little bit, is he going to hit me back? And it's, I know it's just a sim, but at the same time, when you work to go from 10th to 5th, and you got a really good car, you don't want to bump somebody and, something unfortunate happen, and you go all the way back to the back again.
I 100% agree, man. But it's just, and usually the wrecks, it's from hard racing. Usually it's a lot of 3 wides or 4 wides going on. It wasn't that long ago that well, I guess it was a couple months back now, but at USA they went 6 wide during the feature, and they pretty
I was in that.
Yeah, so
I was the outside car on that.
yeah, I remember that. So, it's easy to get into accidents that way when you're hard racing that much. And I mean, USA, it's not that wide of a track. It's long, but it's not wide. So, the fact that you guys were all able to go sixth wide there was pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was scary.
I'm sure it was. I mean, even for an experienced person, looking down and then seeing 4 or 5 other people to your inside, that's a little bit of a jump scare there, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It's definitely, I gotta say, iRacing, it's as close as you're gonna get to real life without buying a real race car.
Yeah, my stepdad says all the time that racing's getting so expensive nowadays that some of these teams that can't survive the whole season, that this sim's gonna be the next thing. That it's all gonna come down to $1,000 to win weekly races at your hometown track on iRacing. He says it's just a matter of a couple years, and that's how it's gonna be.
I agree. It's so expensive now because it's just a lot of money. Especially if you want to be competitive, you got to have a lot of money into your cars now in real life. And I mean, don't you race in real life? Don't you?
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. It's definitely not cheap. I'm sure.
Yeah. No. Yeah. We actually just found out my stepdad's car. He has a Rocket XR1. He actually got it from GR Smith 2 years ago. It's a 2019, and when we got it, the rear of the car was bent, and we had no idea. And then we went to Beckley, West Virginia, and was passing Jacob Brown for third, and they just got into each other a little bit on the front stretch, and he got turned sideways, and the other boy did too, and my stepdad done taking the steering wheel off and was going to get out and check the damage, and got hit while he was stopped, probably 30 seconds after he'd stopped, and killed the whole rear of the car. And we took the car back to Rocket, got a clip, put everything back together, and we went back again a few weeks ago for the 10,000 to win again. And we couldn't figure out why the car was really bad in the slick. And we found out last week that the rear end was bent. So that solved our problem with that. But racing's not cheap. It's definitely very expensive, and we go through, man. The mod tires we go through is pretty crazy. We go through a lot of mod tires.
Yeah, the tires have gotten really expensive too. That's another thing. So, but I don't know. You gonna stick with iRacing this time and keep really playing it for a long time? You think, or what's
Yeah, for sure. I just got out of college, so work is into play now. But I come home from work and I'm on the sim. I get on. After I shower, I get on and I'm playing till most of the time 10 or 11 o'clock, maybe a little bit later sometimes, and then going to bed and waking up and checking to see if anybody sent me hate messages, and then going to work and come back and doing it again. So yeah, we'll be on the team or on the sim for a while, especially with this team, man. It's might be one of the better things that's ever happened to me. These guys are always on there making things really fun, and we're not always running dirt. The last few weeks we've been running asphalt, NASCAR stuff, and put some dirt guys on some NASCAR stuff, and that's wild.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing is I've took people that are from asphalt and bring them over to the dirt side, and then they stick with that or just different things like that. For a while, I was broadcasting a few leagues for asphalt and was doing that for a little while, so it's definitely interesting as well. But I mean, what did you struggle with more, dirt or asphalt on iRacing when learning?
No, I've always been dirt. I wasn't a big fan of asphalt until I got this Fantech wheel and pedals. And it's just the only reason I like it now is just because we don't take it serious. We just try to draft and wreck each other. So it's I started on dirt, and I'll always be with dirt. That's where we don't have asphalt racing really around us in Virginia, so we're all dirt around here, and that's where I'm gonna stay.
Yeah, that's pretty much the same thing up here. There's not a whole lot of that. I mean, there's Swego and then Watkins Glen. Those are the main ones that I know of, but I don't know, but everything is just really spending a lot of time and getting used to everything. Like asphalt, it's not. There's different cars that are easy to learn on asphalt. Is the best way to say it.
Yeah, for sure.
But with dirt, you got to worry about your tires now with burning them up, and not saying that you don't got to worry about that with asphalt because you do, but dirt, you got to worry about that. You got to worry about not trying to get into people while sliding or hitting the slick or anything like that. So, but it's all learning curve to everybody, and I'm sure that you probably took you a good. How long do you think it took you to get used to, running side by side with somebody and start to be competitive when you first got iRacing?
Oh, dude, it actually took me, I would say a good 2 years to even learn late models. I couldn't hop in a super and make a lap, and now I can't stand to drive a limited because they're too slow. So it took me a long time. I'm just now to the point. I won the super opener this week, and that's my first super opener win ever. So it definitely it took me a very long time. It's definitely it's harder, especially with the supers and pros, because once again the setups. If you don't have a good setup in a late model, you're definitely SOL there.
Yeah, I can agree with that, man. But I would say it probably took me close to a year to get used to be able to run most of the dirt cars, and I'm one of the ones that can manage to drive everything and still stay pretty consistent when I do have time to run. A lot of people usually just stick to one car or two cars, but like late models, they took me a good bit to learn, along with the sprint cars. Those were my two biggest things. When I was running modifieds, it took me a minute to get used to running sprints and late models there. Like, I'd say close to the year mark that I had iRacing is when I finally got comfortable running them in them and learning the setup swarm and everything.
Yeah, for sure. I still can't drive a sprint car. I refuse to even get in one. But the late models, that's where I come from. I didn't run none of the 358 stuff until Clayton come around, and first 358 stuff I've ran has been whatever I've ran 358. It's been in your lobbies. So I keep telling Clayton, I make fun of him. I'm like, man, you just wait. You give me about a year of marks, and we'll be to the point where we're gonna win a lot. And he was like, you're already winning. And I'm like, well, so is everybody else, but I wanna become dominant on 358s. But the late models are definitely still my wheelhouse. I love that's what I love is the late models.
And I understand that, being that's where you more come from in there in Virginia, up here where, modifieds, but, yeah, I don't know. So you think you're going to try to eventually go for the yearly award? Do you know what that is, or?
Yeah, I've heard Beth say a couple times what it was, but I hadn't really, I don't know, I miss so many of your races because sometimes I am gone quite a bit, or I'm so tired I can't get on for the night, and I'll hop in your live and just watch. But I don't know. We may try. We may fall into it, maybe. So I don't know. We'll give it a shot.
Yeah, and I mean it's just running here and there and trying to get wins. It's the person at the end of the year with the most feature wins in that year. Last year was Sean Smith at the end of 2023, and of 2022 was Ethan Bowers. Every year we try to give a little bit more for it. Like Sean Smith, he got a some merchandise from us, and then $100 and just all different things that we try to give to people when they win that as just, thank you for coming in all year and, being a top runner. But
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely something to look forward to all year long, and eventually we might switch that up, try to do it quarterly or something like that. I want to get a few different of my drivers' opinions on that, because I know some people might rather that or different things, so. But, that was another thing. You just bought some of our merch not too long ago. What was your opinion on it?
It's comfortable, man. It's I've actually been using the fire. I've wore the paint off the bottle opener. So that thing was very handy. But yeah, that shirt, man, that thing's nice. I actually, when it came in the mail, I wore it the whole day and ruined the first one, and I was like, dang it, man! Now I got to order another one. And I went on there the other day to order it, and I didn't even I forgot to pay. It's still sitting in my cart, so I gotta go in there and get the other one.
Like, glad that it was comfortable for you and that you're getting a lot of use out of it. So that's good to hear, man. But I'm glad that we could finally get this podcast done. Is I know we were
Yeah.
supposed to yesterday, and then that didn't happen. And then I had a few other people scheduled, but it's just hard to fit everybody in and everything, and try to work my schedule with theirs and work their schedule with mine to be able to get them in on the podcast and for YouTube and everything. And I know it's definitely been a little bit, so hopefully people will be excited to see this one, being that it's been a little bit, being that I've been really busy with everything and haven't had a chance to schedule people for it. So now that we got you and me in, we'll have to try to get some more people in. But I really appreciate you coming on to it, man. We've talked for 25 minutes now, so I say we call it here, and then maybe eventually we'll have you back in the near future. But thank you for coming on to the podcast and everything, and chatting with me and giving me some of your advice on different things with new drivers or just anything, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me on here. It was a first ever podcast I've ever been on, so for sure fun.
Like, no problem, man. Thanks for being a part of it. Hope to see you again here soon.
Sir, thank you.
Yep, no problem. Okay, guys, thank you all so much for watching the Legend Podcast. Hope to see you guys in the next one. Peace.